Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Gosley. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
5, 4, 3, 2. And welcome into the program. This is Your Course to Retirement, brought to you by your resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial, your investment, and your retirement futures. Grand Rapids, they are the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners, certified financial planner, CFP, and founder of the firm. Ron Corser here with us, providing us the guidance and perspective that we need to make good decisions with our money. Ron, we always appreciate the time and the information that you share.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it too, being able to talk about these things. And good morning to everybody listening to today's program. We're going to talk about, I think, something more related to philosophy than specifics, but we'll see how it all shakes out. And that really is trying to figure out how we care for our family, both immediate, our spouse, our children. What do we do about planning our financial future? And how do we take care of ourselves in the best way possible to do a couple things to make sure that, number one, our children don't have to handle a mess that we may have created by not doing a good job planning. And most importantly, that we've taken care of, in my situation, that taken care of my wife and ultimately my children and grandchildren. So it's more than just saying, I've done it, I got a handle on it, I got some beneficiaries. There's a lot more to planning about it. And it really gets down to, it's been my experience in 27 years doing this, that there's a wide variety of responses to a topic like this. One of it is, I don't care what they do, I'm going to be dead, it's up to them. And the other response is, I'm going to share everything and tell them what I've planned. And if they don't like it, they can lump it. I get that too. I'm probably more to that end than, they're on their own. But let's go through today's subject matter and talk about it. Because here's what I tell people. Ultimately, when we die and God calls us home, we're going to be out of the picture, so to speak, but not really, because we end up leaving memories. That's probably the ultimate gift we provide children, grandchildren, spouses, the next generation. And so how we're remembered can be very important to a lot of people. It can be something as simple as, wow, when mom and dad died, they had everything together. And now they don't. Let's stop the program. See on the phone? We got to stop it. Okay. Sorry about this, Peter.
No problem. All right. So Ron was talking about how we're remembered is important to some people in 5, 4, 3, 2. And Ron, if we've got everything together, that can leave wonderful memories as well as a wonderful financial benefit and support and financial confidence for our loved ones. But unfortunately, sometimes things are what I call the Waffle House style, kind of scattered, covered, and smothered. We don't know where things are. We don't have track of them. Somebody said, oh yeah, I got that taken care of, but we have no idea where it's at. And that can leave some hardship financially and emotionally on others. So we really want to have those things together.
We really do. And I understand that sometimes it's difficult. Let me give you an example. I recently had a conversation with a widow lady, really nice lady. She's got 5 kids. And already they're starting apparently to talk about divvying up the estate. And she's done all the work she should do in terms of having, proper documentation, a trust, beneficiaries, everything like that. And now she's gotten concerned about, I guess, trying to be the referee in this discussion with the kids. And my response was to her was, you've done everything you can do. The only thing left to do from my point of view, is to say to the children, this is how I've laid it out. Get along. That's just me. When we did our estate work, and we were going through another review of it, once my wife Nancy and I figured out how we wanted to handle everything, I had the discussion with our two children. And it was a discussion that wasn't, I hope you like it. It was a discussion of, here's what we've done. Here's how you'll participate. Here's how I want to be cared for in my last days or my last moments. Have a nice day. Because we did it in a way that, I mean, they're going to share equally. I'm not favoring one over the other. I'm trying to also provide for my grandchildren. But it was a situation where I want them to know. I don't want them to argue about it. I've run into situations, and this is interesting, where as a financial advisor, I joke with people and say, we keep everything confidential when we talk to clients. I never share information unless the client has actually given me direct permission. But I said, it's kind of interesting because sometimes people want us to be a referee, and that's not my job to be a referee. I understand why they want to do it, but it's not my job. On the other hand, I tell people, you're the adult. You can do whatever you want to with your estate. And if in your mind you've done it fairly and equally and whatever things you have to take care of, then it's up to them to accept it because you've done it and it's done.
Ron, in your example, your situation, though, I think that the documentation of the wishes, but also the conversation about those wishes, almost equally important. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of families, a lot of households, even between a lot of couples, there is some shield of secrecy there, or the attitude of I've got that handled, or I'm the one that handles it. And the conversations just don't happen. So one person or family members or children are kind of in the dark about those wishes and about the documents or the assets or accounts that those wishes pertain to.
Yeah, and it even gets down further, and I'll use my own life experience. This is going to take just a minute or two. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I was raised by my grandparents till I was about 8 in a little coal mining town in a place called Vittendale, Pennsylvania, which is about 20 miles northwest of Johnstown, the great floods there that they had. We lived in a 4-room house. I love telling this story to my kids because it makes their eyes roll up in the back of their head. We didn't have indoor plumbing. We had cold running water, no hot water. I was loved, and it was a wonderful time in my life. My kids look at it now and they think, oh my goodness, you lived in abject poverty. And I never understood that or knew that. It just seemed to me my memories are great. But that's how it was. My grandparents, they had 16 children. 2 of them died early. So there were 14 children. And then there was me. And I became one of the adopted most favorite sons of my grandfather and grandmother, which aggravated some of my aunts and uncles. So when they both died, we had this little house. This house couldn't have been, 800 square feet, maybe. And the argument started right away. Who's going to get the house? So my mom and my other aunt were in charge of it, and they finally got so angry and frustrated with all the uncles and aunts that they put all 14 of their names plus me as beneficiaries on the house deed. So when everybody died, everybody signed off except my uncle, Charlie, who has since passed away, so I can talk about him here publicly. He was the youngest, and he thought he should inherit the house just because he was the youngest. Well, he wouldn't sign off on it. This house maybe was going to bring $10,000, $12,000, maybe. They spent 3.5 years in litigation. Cost about $8,000 to lawyers' fees. They sold the house for $12,000. I mean, this in modern terminology, I lived in Appalachia, but it was the most wonderful time of my life. So, and aunts and uncles got mad and didn't talk to one another for 5 or 6 years. That's the kind of stuff that can happen when things aren't taken care of. Now, my grandfather and grandmother were from Hungary, so leaving a legacy was not something that was high on their mind, simply because they didn't have anything. But we can run into those kinds of situations, and it can create family turmoil, and nobody seems to want that with their children or grandchildren. So we're going to go through a list of things here on today's program. Some are very straightforward. First one's going to be, how do we deal with Social Security in the planning process? And we're going to get into some of the more fuzzier ones later on. But they're all important to consider because it gets down ultimately to this. At some point in time, we are going to die. We're going to leave a physical and an emotional legacy. How we choose while we're living to create that legacy is really important. So I hope everybody will stay tuned to our program and take some good notes. And if you want to talk about this based on what you've heard already, or maybe what you're going to hear later on, give us a call at our office, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your name in there, and we're more than happy to have a conversation with you. Now, I'm a certified financial planner and an investment advisor. We're not attorneys. We don't do lawyer paperwork, but we're at least, I think, smart enough and good enough to have really great conversations with people based on what kind of legacy they want to leave, financial, emotional, memories, and those kinds of things, to help them create a plan, a financial plan that makes great sense for them while they're alive, and maybe makes even greater sense when they're no longer here. So that's what we're going to talk about. Again, if this is of interest, give us a call at 616-301-2581, and we'll go forward with it.
Well, we believe that everybody has the right to have financial confidence in their life. And once that is established, the ability to transfer that confidence on to your loved ones and family members. And your resource to do that, ladies and gentlemen, in and around Grand Rapids has been the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners, certified financial planner, CFP, Ron Corser, the founding partner and member there. And if you've got questions, pick up the phone, be in touch, give them a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You can also visit online, cornerstone-rp.com. That is cornerstone-rp.com. It's one of those things, Ron, where we almost get in our own way in establishing that level of financial confidence. And what we don't know sometimes are the biggest things that can hurt us and are the stumbling blocks.
Yeah, one of the big things that sometimes I hear, we're going to transition right now to how do we deal with this issue called Social Security, particularly with a married couple. It's a lot simpler if you're single. With a married couple, we get a wide variety of thoughts and ideas, most of which come from people who don't, from my point of view, and I'm going to say this in a nice way, don't understand all the different little nuances and options available to them in figuring out how to take their Social Security benefit. We get basically two people that say, one, you got to take it early because it's going to go away. I tell people, no, it's not. They'll probably make some adjustments. It's not going away. Then you have the other part, particularly in our industry, that says, wait until you're 70 to get the maximum benefit. Well, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but that comes with some downside too. Number one, you got to promise to live that long. Number two, you got to make sure that you have enough income between, say, age 62 and 70 to get by without taking your Social Security benefit. And then the third part, and a lot of it isn't really discussed much, is what about the spousal benefit? Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about Social Security, except to say that one of the key planning objectives in figuring out what the best Social Security strategy is for you as a couple, so to speak. Yes, it's about the amount of money, but it's also about what's the spousal benefit. I'm a little older than my wife, Nancy. I want to make sure that if God calls me home today, things are going to be okay for her, and they are. We've planned on it. But there's always the issue of, look, when somebody dies, when a couple, they lose the Social Security benefit. They lose the smallest one. Yes, they get to keep the biggest one, but that's a cut and pay. And it's not possible, ladies and gentlemen, for a single person this day and age to live on half the money of a couple. Please, if you're thinking about that, kind of put that idea to the side, because the gas company doesn't call and say, well, I'm sorry, your husband died. We're going to cut your gas payment in half. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, Ron, it seems like there's this perception that if one of a couple passes away, that bills get reduced by half and income stays the same, when in actuality, what happens is that income often gets cut pretty substantially and bills generally stay almost the same.
Yeah, and the same can go on when we're talking about this, choosing the right benefit on a long-term basis. Is also if somebody's blessed to have a pension. I know a lot of people don't have a pension from a company, but those that do, the issue always becomes what pension benefit to take. And it always is, ladies and gentlemen, if you're dealing with us, you're going to get this conversation. If you're using another advisor, make sure you get the conversation. What is the best solution for me and my spouse when it comes to taking our Social Security and pension benefits? What is in the best interest going forward while we're both alive? And what makes the most sense when one of us dies? Now, there may not be a great, easy solution, but it's a conversation that's really necessary to have, because it can create a lot of financial trouble for somebody down the road when they're single.
I just want to interject and say, if you want to hear very detailed conversations about either of those, Social Security or pensions, we've got previous episodes that dive deep into all of the intricacies of both of those and the decisions that you have to make. But today on the program, Ron, talking specifically about caring for our loved ones, the reason you bring these two things up to begin with is that both of them have survivorship implications, and the income of our significant other will be affected by the decisions that we make, typically very early on in retirement.
Yeah, they will be. And sometimes they're irrevocable, particularly when it comes to pension issues. So it's important to figure out what's in your best interest for today and tomorrow, and also for 10 or 15 years down the road. It's critically important. We can have that conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's what we do when we review our client's portfolio, when we meet new people for the first time. It's what we do in our process. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Give us a call, we can help you. And I know that for a fact, because I've had people say, I didn't know I had that many options with Social Security, or I didn't know that was the best option for pensions. When you hear those things, you as an advisor, it's music to my ears. That means that we've covered the bases and we've done what we should do to give them the best opportunity to be successful.
But people are generally short-sighted, Ron, and seeing more money up front is very, very appealing. And therefore, we may make some decisions based off of that instant gratification, the short-term pleasure of having more income that can really down the road, you said 15, but sometimes 25, 30, 35 years later, if we're making these decisions in our late 50s, early 60s, they really can have negative consequences that, unless we have taken the time to get educated, we may not fully understand the implications of.
Yeah, and when it comes to things like Social Security, and we'll move off of this, I tell people there's no wrong time to take it. There's no wrong time to take Social Security. What somebody has to figure out is what makes the most sense for them now, given their current situation and circumstances. And that involves a conversation, which I'm happy to have. So if it's something, ladies and gentlemen, you'd like to have a conversation about or learn more about, give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, and we can help you. Go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com, and we'll give you a hand with this important conversation.
As you started off talking about how there's the financial aspect, the money component, but there's also the mental and emotional aspect, the memories that we leave behind. We don't want to make, one of these financial mistakes and look back in hindsight and say, we should have done that very differently when it comes to what really are a couple of the foundational pieces for security and confidence in retirement in Social Security and pensions, Ron.
Yeah, it really is true. And that leads us to the next subject, which can have a really dramatic impact on the future of the family. And that's something called life insurance. Now, before you start turning off the radio program, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be a solicitation for life insurance, but it's just going to be a little conversation about life insurance and how for some people it may be appropriate to have or to keep. Here's what I know about life insurance. It is the single best way of any other financial tool to pass along money to the next generation in a tax-free manner. That's simply how life insurance is built. Now, we all have gone through the situation, particularly if we're a little older. I went through it where somebody comes in at your house at 6:30 in the evening and they beat you up until 9 o'clock at night. And you finally, out of desperation, say, I give up. I'll give you $30, sell me some insurance, don't ever come back to my house. We've all had those experiences. And it really is unfortunate because it's caused a lot of us to say, I hate life insurance, or I don't believe in life insurance. I don't believe in it either. It's just another financial tool that I find to be most useful in my life. But insurance can do a couple things. Number one, it can help you pass on really what we call cheap dollars, meaning you leverage your dollars. It takes $1 to say buy $100 of benefits. You can pass that on tax-free to your next generation, to your children and grandchildren. Properly structured life insurance getting into retirement or in retirement can also provide that kind of a benefit, but it can also be used to do something else. It can be used to provide chronic illness or a long-term care kind of benefit. We all talk about the long-term care issue in the back of our head, and we don't like to talk about it too loud because I think sometimes we think if we talk about it, we're going to get it. It's kind of like flu, but that's not true. If we live long enough, chances are we're going to need a little custodial care. I think about my own life. I'm talking about myself too much here, but I've had both my shoulders replaced and 3 back surgeries. I actually want to live to be 100, and I pray to live to be 100, but I also pray to God that he'll let me know that I'm 100, because why would you want to be 100 if you don't know it? So I want to see what happens to my children and my grandchildren and maybe even great-grandchildren. But it's an important thing that you can use not only to cover, okay, how do we get money to the next generation and keep it in the family, so to speak? Because I've never met anybody who wants to give more money to the government than their kids. Mm-hmm. Never. And the other part is, if we live long enough, we may have to have some custodial care. And now, we always think of long-term care in this situation, and this is the next part of, oh my goodness, we got to go into a home. There's going to be screaming in the halls. They're going to feed us gruel and hose us down on Saturday, whether we need it or not. Not all long-term care places are like that, but more and more people are qualifying for long-term care benefits without going into a facility, by staying home. And isn't that the key? That's what we want, to stay in our own home and be cared for there. Life insurance, properly structured for some people, I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but properly structured, it can be a great source of that thing called long-term care or chronic illness benefit at a very minimal cost. Right now it's about $10,000 a month in a facility. It's probably going to go up. And to be cared for at home is less than that, maybe between $3,000 and $6,000, depending on what's going on. That can add up to a lot of money over 3, 4, or 5 years. Life insurance, properly structured, with certainly these benefits, can be a great help in terms of managing your legacy, your portfolio. So if this is important, ladies and gentlemen, we can have a conversation with you. Give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. And we can give you help, we can give you information, we can provide options for you. And isn't that what everybody wants? I know I do. I like to have options when it comes to really important decisions, because then I figure between me and my wife, we can figure out what's in our best interest and in the best interest of our family. So give us a call at 616-301-2581 or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your name and number in there and we'll get to you and help you out.
Now, Ron, I do want to clarify this because you're a financial advisor, in fact, a certified financial planner, a CFP, and a lot of folks in their minds think of a certified financial planner or a retirement planner about the investments, about handling the 401ks and the IRAs, the brokerage accounts, but you can yourself and the members of your firm can help people find and structure that proper kind of insurance if that is needed as part of their plan, correct?
It's part of what we do. It's part of the whole financial planning picture. Yes, we manage stock market kinds of investments. We do that, IRAs, 401ks, things like that. But this other thing that we've talked about when it comes to what's the best way to deal with our Social Security or pension? Does life insurance make sense for us? It always makes sense to look at it. That's another part of what we do because there's more to the retirement planning that we talk about than just, let's give you your money, we'll buy 3 mutual funds and you'll be happy. That really isn't, anybody can do that. That's really not what we do. We do a little more than that in terms of helping people craft a retirement plan that not only gives them all the income they need in retirement, but creates a path for them to keep as much money as possible within the family.
Well, again, if you would like some help finding or structuring that right kind of protection for leaving that legacy behind for your family or covering some amount of care if needed during your own or your spouse's lifetime, pick up the phone, give a call. That is part of the conversation, part of the planning process, part of your course to retirement there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners. If again, you'd like to be in touch, pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Today, talking with Ron Courser about caring for our loved ones here on Your Course to Retirement, and we will be right back after this.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Courser and Nolan Gosley. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow. Visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
And welcome back to the program. This is Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Resource for comprehensive planning for your financial, your investment, your retirement future. The team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners and founding partner Ron Courser, CFP, is here with us, certified financial planner providing perspective and guidance on planning and preparing for your financial future. Today, talking about caring for our loved ones. And Ron, before the break, we were talking a little bit about the role that life insurance can play. Good tool for replacing lost income with Social Security or pensions, a great tool for generational wealth transfer because it can happen tax-free and no one wants to leave the IRS as their biggest beneficiary. But you were also mentioning the kind of newer advantage to properly structured life insurance where we can actually pay for some level of assistance with care. And a great number of us over the course of our lifetime are going to need some level of care. The Department of Health and Human Services puts that at right about 70% of us. But unfortunately, a very, very small number of us actually have any kind of specific tool to help cover the costs of care. You're saying that properly structured life insurance can provide not only that protection for some of those costs, but can even leave ourselves or our loved ones in the comfort of our own home, which if we're talking about caring for our loved ones, it's not only what we want for ourselves, but being in the comfort of our own home is certainly something we'd want for our spouse or our loved ones.
Well, that would be my number one choice if I need custodial care.
Absolutely.
I want to be able to watch NCIS and football, eat junk food till the cows come home and have a good old time. And most people are like that. Let's just care in a home. And it's interesting. More and more programs are coming into play to provide good care in home. We did it with my wife's mom before she had to enter the facility. She stayed in her condo for a good 7 years past the mark. If she didn't have some ability to take in-home care, she would have had to be in a facility. So it makes great sense. It always gets down to this, and we've got several handfuls of clients now that are in that sandwich generation. They're dealing with their own children and they're dealing with mom and dad. And invariably I hear, boy, it's expensive. It's expensive to put dad into the facility because he's got early onset Alzheimer's or something's going on here physically. It's expensive. And you try to help as best you can to pay for that. But ultimately, for too many people that are older us, our previous generation, too many of us, the only option is to spend all your money and then go on Medicaid if you live long enough. Get some planning on that. And we certainly have, we don't do Medicaid planning, but we have affiliations with folks that can help in that. But it's always an expensive proposition. And sometimes people don't qualify for nursing home care, but they could sure use in-home chronic illness kind of care. And that's where sometimes this thing called, and I don't go back to it, this thing called life insurance might be appropriate, properly structured for people. But let me emphasize that it has to be appropriate. It has to be the right thing. It has to make great sense to be able to do what you want it to do. Now, the other part of this whole thing, and I hear this sometimes, is life insurance is a lousy investment. I might, in the purest sense of the way, address that and say, yeah, I agree with you. It's hard to get a 10% rate of return on insurance. But it always gets down to, why are we doing this? People don't have all of their money in the stock market. They have money in the bank. They have money in the mattress. They have precious metals locked up in their safe. They have a lot of other things that don't necessarily have a great rate of return. It's always about, what is it we want this portion or this piece of our money to do for us? What do we want it to do for us? You can certainly make the decision, I'm going to put it all in the market and let it rip because the market always goes up 10% a year. You can do that. Doesn't mean it'll always work, but you can do that. Maybe you get in a great decade like we've had since 2009, and it'll be pretty successful. But there's other things that say, well, this works too. You could make the argument that health insurance is a lousy investment. I mean, if you think about it, you don't get a rate of return on your Medicare policy, do you? You pay into it one way or the other, and you hope you never use it. But if it's there, see, its purpose, health insurance, Medicare, its purpose not to give you a rate of return. Its purpose is to provide health care. So yeah, it's a lousy investment, but it does something else really cool that investments don't do unless you got $50 million. And that's provide you with great health care. So the idea of looking at everything as an investment, I think misses potentially the mark. It's, what is it you want this particular strategy or product to do for you, and will it do it? And if the answer is yes, it will do it, then the decision is, well, should we add it to our portfolio or just say we looked at it and decided not to do it? Does that make sense?
It does. And you could say the same for a great number of other things. Auto insurance is a terrible investment. In fact, automobiles generally are terrible investments. They depreciate in value, but we buy them because they do a certain job for us. If you want to get right down to it, money in the bank is a terrible investment with this low interest rate, but it's almost it is a necessary component of our comprehensive financial picture because it serves a particular purpose. And just a side comment on the Medicaid discussion, Ron, because of the requirements, because of the complications, because of the qualifications, Medicare, or Medicaid rather, really is nobody's ideal plan A for covering that need or those expenses, I wouldn't believe.
I really don't think it is either. I mean, I'm a veteran, so I could go into the vet's home. If you've visited a vet's home, for some people, It's a step up in their living experience. But for a lot, it's a step down. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's a different way to approach the whole long-term care situation when you don't have a lot of money or don't have any money. If you're a vet, you can go in there. So it really gets down to, I have saved all my life. I have this bucket of money. How is it I want to allocate this money to give me all the income in retirement that I need, that will provide security for my spouse, my wife, that will give me the Medicare and medical provision and safety that I need. So if I get sick or something, I have a place to go that and a way to pay for it. And what about when I need help down the road, when I get really old, when I'm 97, and I'm going to need certain kinds of care? How am I going to get that? How am I going to pay for it? Because it's going to cost money. Nothing's free. So those are things that are very important in the whole planning process. Sometimes folks they take the position, I think sometimes, well, if I don't talk about it, I won't have to think about it and it won't happen. I've had clients like that.
The old ostrich head in the sand approach. Yeah.
I love them dearly and I try to help them, but sometimes that's the way they look at it. And I get it. I understand it. That's why I don't watch werewolf movies or vampire movies, because I'm convinced if I watch them, there's really such things out there and they scare me. So I don't watch them anymore. I'm into happy endings at this stage of my life. I really am. So if this is making some sense out there, ladies and gentlemen, give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your name in there and we will contact you and try to help you the best way we can. And always remember, we don't charge for our time, but we do try to do the very best we can to help people become comfortable with our firm, with our company, with us as individuals, to know that we help them, that we care about them, because we really do, and that we're trying to do the very best we can, given whatever law changes happen, tax things, all of that stuff that goes on, over which we have no control. But we can help people navigate those kind of choppy waters. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, and we will help you.
Speaking of law changes and tax changes, Ron, another area where many people are planning on being of assistance, leaving a positive impact or legacy to their loved ones. And in this case, I'm speaking specifically generationally to their children, to their grandchildren, is by leaving some of those retirement accounts behind, the IRAs being the big one, that were really targeted with the Secure Act, the act that was passed in 2019, went into effect in 2020, that those retirement accounts may not be as good of a generational wealth passing and transfer vehicle as they once were, which is another reason why we may want to look at other tools to get that job done if it is a goal for us.
That's a good point. The Secure Act made some major changes in terms of how we pass on our retirement money to the next generation. And basically what they said is that inherited IRA or tax-deferred accounts are not retirement accounts for the beneficiaries. They're inherited money. And the IRS has said, we're putting a 10-year limit on how long you can have them. Now there's some other things there. If you're under 18, some other disability issues, you might be able to qualify for a stretch until a certain period of time. But basically IRA accounts and 401ks, any kind of tax deferred account that's to be passed on to the next generation, they have about 10 years to liquidate it, meaning there's no required minimum distribution on IRAs, inherited IRAs anymore. You can take it all out the first day, all out the last day, or a little bit going down the road, but you will pay tax on that money. And if you're under 59 and a half, if it's an IRA, you won't pay a 10% penalty for a withdrawal. But it even goes to Roth accounts. The government, we've already paid tax on this. The government hates tax-free accounts. It really does. So it's even put that 10-year limitation on Roth accounts that are inherited, which to me makes no sense at all, but that's probably why I'm not in the government making rules, because
Well, they want to get that money back in taxable circulation, I think, is the
I
bottom
want to
line.
do something with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not probably focused on what's your best long-term interest. They're probably going to come and get me for what I just said, but that's okay. I'll say it again. Anyhow, you need to be aware of those things. So what kind of legacy you leave and how you pass assets on is really important. Now, this leads into another little subject matter. Let's say you're over 70, you've got an IRA, you want to leave it to your 4 children and 2 grandchildren, and you've set it up that way. But now you're 72 years old and you have a required minimum distribution. And maybe you're fortunate enough to not need that required distribution, that RMD, to live on. Well, what else can you do with it? One of the great things you can do is with a qualified charitable deduction. What does that mean? Is you're allowed to, once you're 72, to take your required minimum distribution, whatever it might be. Let's say it's $10,000. Now, the government wants you to take that out so they can tax it. But if you give it away to a charity, a real 501(c) charity, you can send that money there. It takes care of your required minimum distribution. It's not included as taxable income. And if you're already in a charitable mood, you're tithing to your church. What a great way to minimize the erosion of your estate through taxation by giving away money through a charitable qualified deduction. And I tell people, I don't think Jesus minds if you get a tax deduction or you get some benefit out of giving money to the church. I don't think he minds that at all. I think he just wants you to give it. And if you're already giving it, why not take advantage of that? So what does that do? Well, that minimizes obviously the tax deferred part of your estate, but it also enables you to perhaps take some other money and position it in a way to pass it on to the next generation that you maybe hadn't the opportunity to do because you were always saddled with, I got to take out a certain amount every year. I got to do this. I got to do that. It gives you another option for planning on how you pass on your estate to the next generation. Now, you never want to pass on a Roth through the qualified charitable deduction. Don't do that. That
No
is not
additional
the right way
benefit
to handle
there.
a Roth. But for tax deferred money that have this tax thing that's hanging over them, it's a great way to do that. It's also, if you have highly appreciated assets, that's also another thing you can pass on to charities. But for most people, it really gets down to the IRA. And that's where you can perhaps save some money and also continue to be charitable in your giving to solve a lot of problems and also to create a lot of good.
What about the annual gifting strategies, Ron? Do you have clients that are...
It just froze up on me.
Oh, okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ron, what about the annual gifting strategies? Do you have clients that are trying to dissolve some of their accounts and some of their wealth by gifting it to loved ones and family members?
Yeah, we have some clients that say, I'm not going to wait until I die. I want to see what they're going to do with it now. Gifting is a really interesting strategy. You can give anybody in the world $15,000. So if you're a couple, that means you can give every one of your children and grandchildren $30,000 if you have the money, and it's going to be tax-free. Here's something else you can do. A lot of grandparents want to help fund their grandchildren's college education. So they look to setting up maybe a 529 plan or some other investment vehicle. Here's another way to help finance your grandchildren's college is you can pay the college directly. Your nephew Throckmorton, he has a $10,000 tuition bill. Well, you can give him the money, I suppose. That's one way, but he's going to have to deal with it if he has any other benefits coming. But you can directly pay for that. Just write a check to the institution. And it doesn't even count against your $15,000 annual gift exclusion. That's another way to help your grandchildren without going through what I sometimes think is the rigmarole of setting up special accounts, that you have to have special ideas on how to do that and rules and regulations. So you have an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, and you want to help them in college, think about paying it direct. You can also do the same thing with medical bills that they incur. So there's a lot of ways that you can funnel your estate while you're alive to your children and grandchildren. And it gives you an idea perhaps of how they're going to use it, but it gives you the satisfaction of knowing that you're doing something now that maybe 10 years from now you wouldn't be able to do. Who knows? Because something else may happen. So ladies and gentlemen, there's, as they say in Kentucky, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. And I don't want all you PETA people coming at me now. Please don't do that. It's just an expression. My wife has 2 cats. She values them more than me. I'm good with that. We have a good relationship. But give us a call at 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581. We can help you with these things. We can explain what your options are. And it's always good to have options. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but we can help you. We won't let any, as they say, stone unturned. You will have options and you'll know the things that are important for you to know so that you can make great decisions for yourself and your family going forward. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your name in there and we will contact you and help you every which way we can.
616-301-2581, 616-301-2581 on this program, talking about caring for our loved ones and the things that we do financially to make sure that they have stability and confidence in their financial situation. We've talked about a number of different topics. And Ron, just for a moment, I'd like to sort of back up to a 30,000-foot view here. In all likelihood, if somebody's tuned into this program, they're probably the one within the household that pays the most attention to the money and to the finances. We've touched on this and hinted at it a couple times. That is a responsibility to take on, and it's great that people do that, but it may not be so great. And the unintended results may not be what we wish if we leave other members of the household or the family completely in the dark. And so there are some things that you encourage people to be sharing and having conversations about on an ongoing basis to make sure that everybody is competent and comfortable with the finances.
Yeah, we really do. One of the things I always encourage people, and I just had a conversation with a lady this morning about it, or Friday morning rather, is here's what you do. You've already done everything that you can do, and it's a pretty good plan when you die. Tell your children who to call. Have them call us. We will lay out the options before them of what you wanted to have happen to your money and what options they have in terms of kind of grabbing onto or receiving their inheritance. We can help them make the very best decision possible. So that the work has been done. We've done it. If you were my client, we would already have done it the way they want it. And then the implementation part comes when they pass away. And that's when they should know to call us. We've had people call us and say, did my mom have anything with you? And obviously she never communicated that. They just found a piece of paper.
And Ron, I've heard of situations where basically in order to find the investment accounts or the life insurance, families were just waiting around for the right piece of mail to show up. Sometimes 6 months to a year later, they were still finding new places where money had sort of been squirreled away that could have provided a whole lot of additional support during that time where they were sort of in limbo.
Yeah, I always go back to my beloved mom. It took me a long, long time, my brother and I, to convince her to tell us where all her CDs were. That was her idea of high finance. Let's buy the CD, pays the highest interest. We finally got it narrowed down about 2 years before she passed away. She had 16 different CD accounts at various and sundry banks in the Detroit area. And I congratulated her. I said, good job, Mom. She went out and got a trust and her durable power and all that stuff. And she passed away. And then lo and behold, about 7 months later, we get this thing in the mail that says, well, the CD renewed. We didn't know about it. Not only that, but my stepdad had stock in Ford Motor Company. And guess who the beneficiary was? My mom. We never knew about it. So they're both dead. So we got to open up the estate and go through this. Fortunately, my daughter, my brother's wife was a lawyer, and she was able to cut through some of the stuff, and we got it done quickly. But that's an example of not knowing where everything is, and it being impossible to handle until it shows up after the estate's been closed. And here's the downside: they had a very small estate, but sometimes people can leave several $100,000 out there. And if it's not handled properly, it can create some issues with the beloved IRS, and it can create some issues just trying to open up the account and going through this whole thing again. And who's the executor, and he's responsible for it. So you don't want to leave that kind of memory. So let's get it done right. We can help you. Give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We'd be more than happy to be of service to you and help you through all of this.
Well, the pre-planning process, budgeting and spending should always be an ongoing conversation within a household. Where are the bills? How do we get them paid? In today's world, knowing how to access online accounts, where are the locations, how do we get in, bank accounts and statements, opening that mail on a regular basis so we know who to pay, where things need to go. Social Security and pensions, we talked about those, Ron. We need to have a good understanding of those, as well as the investments and life insurance out there. Now, when it comes to the investments, Ron, not everybody has the same comfort level with the market risk there. Are you finding in a household, as maybe things transition from one person handling things to another, that it undergoes kind of a fundamental reevaluation of how things are positioned?
One of the things I've learned over the 27 years in this business is that the husband and wife rarely agree when it comes to risk. And it is not necessarily the guy that's the high risk guy, let it rip. Sometimes it's the wife. But it's something they look and they'll ask me, well, what do you think, Ron? And my response is, I'm a pretty good financial advisor. This marriage counseling thing doesn't work for me at all. I've tried it and it doesn't work. So I tell them they have to kind of agree on it. And then generally when one of the spouses passed away, particularly if it's the husband who was handling most of it, and then there's just mom, the kids want to get involved. And this is what I've seen over time. So the kids might be younger and more stock market wise, and mom and dad, they weren't. They had a different mindset. And so sometimes they'll come in and they want to protect mom, and I'll do whatever people want. It's not me. My job is just to help people. But my question to them sometimes is to say, I know that you don't want this kind of a portfolio, but your mom and dad were very comfortable with it. So if you want to put more risk in your mom's life savings, we do that as long as mom understands it. And most of the time, mom doesn't go along with it. But that creates some dissension. And I understand it. I really do. If you're 30 years old and you've been investing in the market the last 6 years, man, you just let it rip because it's always going to go up. Mom and dad have been around maybe since World War II, and they have a different life experience. So I tell people, my children invest much differently than my wife and I. Yeah, we have this business, but they're much more willing to go for the gusto. And I admire that. But my wife and I have created a retirement plan, if we ever retire, that's based on one basic objective that we've talked a lot about in this program. And that's creating all the retirement income we need in retirement to maintain our lifestyle. This is going to sound strange to a lot of listeners out there. When it comes to my own personal portfolio, our life savings, my wife and I, my wife wants to make sure that we never lose money. She wants to make money, but man, if the account goes down like $4, we have this crisis. And I want to make sure that if something happens to me, she has all the income she needs, predictable, guaranteed coming in for the rest of her life. Those are our primary planning objectives. Yes, we have money in the market. Yes, we have money in principal protected annuities, a lot, because they're great income producers for us and it makes sense for us. Yes, we have some other kind of alternative investments, but the plan we put together is a plan based on what we want. It's not based on what my son who's 46 might want or my daughter who's 44 might want. So that's the real key, because I think we're going to live another 25 years. We're going to need income because we're living in strange times and everybody out there knows it. And income is going to be critical to staying in the lifestyle that, we have a modest lifestyle, that's all. So ladies and gentlemen, if any of this has made sense to you or said, you know what, I think I ought to talk to Ron about all this, give us a call at 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581. We can and will listen to you. We will help you with options so that you're in a position to make the very best decisions you can for yourself, for your spouse, for your children and grandchildren. We can help you do that. So give us a call, 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581.
Well, on this program, we have talked about caring for our family and the financial protection and confidence that we strive to provide for them. And that's the result of proactive planning, ladies and gentlemen. Certified financial planner Ron Courser and the team there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners want you to have a plan put together, your course to retirement. And if you would like to take advantage of the offer to have a complimentary review, a detailed forensic financial analysis, a comprehensive strategy session, and a design of that plan, pick up the phone and give a call. 616-301-2581. That is 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go online, cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com. Certified financial planner Ron Courser, our resource for the perspective and information on the program each and every week. And Ron, we always appreciate your time.
This has been fun. Thank you for allowing me to reminisce of some of my family. We were somewhat dysfunctional, but we all seem to get along on occasion. So enjoy the rest of the day and bless you.
Tune into Cornerstone Retirement Partners' full radio program, Your Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock at News Radio WOOD, or visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services.
Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the products featured